Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to Tufts B versus CU Esports Red as we head into picks and bans. The first ban is going to be Lux, banned out from the side of Tufts, and Corky banned out from the side of CU Esports Red. And Bessa also taken off the table, which makes sense. She's incredibly strong right now, since she has that Drakehound step to dash around and dodge a lot of the things that other top laners can do. So all pretty standard except for the Lux. That does seem to be a pocket pick. GP also banned out, so a lot of top laners being taken off the table, and finally Lilia also banned from the side of Tufts. Um, Skarner also a very potent jungle pick. Ends up being very, very tanky and always has that ultimate to take over a team fight. But it is going to be the first pick Mel from the side of Tufts B, which makes a lot of sense. She's really, really strong right now. She's able to reflect projectiles and just has a lot of survivability with that W and can poke from very, very long range. So definitely a priority pick right now. CU Esports taking the Ezreal for themselves. Wouldn't be surprised to see that paired with something like the Leona or which is also quite good into Mel, but some kind of maybe more aggressive support that will help them take over a lane. We will see what they end up picking up. It is going to be the Karma. That's also a very historic Ezreal bot lane pairing. Together, the Ezreal and the Karma can just put on a ton of pressure against the bot lane, whatever bot lane Tufts B ends up picking up. Because they have so much consistent poke with the Ezreal Q and the Karma Q, especially when it's Mantra empowered. The one downside is they are going to struggle a little bit more once it gets to that late game. Huff's gonna grab the MF. The Rel is also open, which is definitely a really strong combo with the Misfortune ultimate. They can also look into something along the lines of a Mumu. Some big AoE ultimate is going to pair very, very well with the MF. And that should set them up quite well. It's going to be the Cassiopeia. Not entirely sure where that's going to end up going. It is looking maybe like it's either Mel support or Cassiopeia top or something along those lines. Um, I see. Yeah. So it does seem like it's going to be the Cassiopeia top. That does make a good bit of sense. It is interesting seeing them lock it so early, as CU Esports ends up locking in Sinja for their jungler. Uh, Very standard picks for the side of CU so far. Um, and Tufts sticking to their own comfort for now, at least. It does look like since CU has their jungle locked in, they're going to start banning away those junglers. Sejuani also taken off the table. I wouldn't be surprised if Vi is also banned. And some of these other powerful jungle priority picks. Hey, Katarina, probably does look like that is also something of a comfort pick that is going to get banned out. And Maokai also taken away from Tough Strangler. Makes a lot of sense. Definitely a very powerful pick. And Garen also banned out from Tufts. Um, it is going to be the solo lanes of CU Esports getting pinched a little bit. We'll see what they end up gravitating back towards. Um, it does seem like Urgot is a very comfortable champion for this CU top laner, but we'll see if they end up going for it. Instead, it's going to be the Gwen, which is really interesting. I would imagine that Cassiopeia has a decent matchup into her, just given that she can ground her, prevent a couple of those dashes, and Cassiopeia is also a relatively short-range champion, so isn't nearly as scared of the Hallowed Mist as a lot of other top laners. And it's going to be Yumumu. So that's going to combo really well with the MF ADC. Those two ultis put together are super, super consistent and very, very powerful. I would imagine that's probably going to go into the jungle, but we'll see what Tufts ends up locking in for support. It's gonna be Galio. So Galio support, I would imagine at least, um, does look very, very good into Karma. Also not going to be bad against Ezreal, and just provides a lot more of that follow-up. If a Mumu goes in, Galio can always ult to him. A very, very solid combo, and Tufts is going to have a very comfortable time in these team fights later into the game. And for them, they really just need to make it there, survive the early game pressure of the Ezreal Karma. Kaisa locked in is really interesting. It might be Karma mid, but to be honest, any combination of Ezreal, Karma, and Kaisa could probably go mid. So I would imagine it's not Karma mid because one of Ezreal and Kaisa has to be support. But that's definitely an interesting draft. They do end up looking very, very squishy. And I do tend to favor Tufts B teams engage because CU is going to really, really struggle to find those engages in the later game, right? With two marksmen and basically no hard CC, no hard engage from the side of CU. So they're going to have to really rely on their ability to poke down Tufts before the fight even starts. And I think that's going to be a very tall order. But we will see how it ends up playing out as we head to a quick break before we head on to Summoner's Rift. Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to Tufts versus CU as we jump straight into game. A couple things right off the bat. It is going to be the Ezreal mid against Galio. And bot lane is going to be Kaisa Karma versus MF Mel. So far, just been a bit of trading across the map. The CU bot lane is able to get a small tempo lead, but that should be perfectly fine for Tufts. I don't think they're looking to make any kind of huge advantage or get any kind of huge advantage in the early game. Especially since that Karma is going to become less and less impactful as the game goes on. And as we see, just farming across the map. I am very curious to see how CU ends up pulling this comp off, because as it stands, they are very much lacking in hard engage, and they end up being relatively squishy. Xin Zhao will end up getting a little bit more health in terms of from bruiser items, but overall, it's not a particularly oh wow, as I say that, a bit of trading going on in the bot lane. Kaisa dropping very, very low, but will end up surviving. But a good trade from Tufts, and ooh, a very nice Mel W to reflect the Void Seeker back at the Kaisa, which does end up connecting. So Tufts taking the advantage a little bit as Xin Zhao makes a little bit of a journey mid lane, dives under the tower, gets taunted, has to flash out. Really ambitious dive from the Xin Zhao, going under the tower, forced to immediately flash out. And I mean, small advantages for Tufts across the board, to be honest. I think winning that trade in bot lane definitely does help a lot. It helps alleviate a lot of that pressure that the Karma can apply early. And Xin Zhao not having flash means that they're going to struggle a little bit more to make plays once we get a little bit later into this game. Ooh, Gwen going very, very aggressively, forcing out the flash from the Cassiopeia. Ghost popped as well, but that flash is going to have a much longer cooldown than the Ghost is, and also is going to be able to crash this wave out before, I imagine, recalling and TPing back. So a pretty sizable advantage for the Gwen. 10 CS in the lead already, and as we expected, can crash that wave and then TP right back, or maybe it doesn't even need to. Yeah, it can save the TP, which will be pretty big if there are any fights towards that bot lane later on. And we do see the one slight downside of playing Mel support is the Mel passive does end up stealing quite a few of those minions. But nonetheless, the Tufts ADC getting a pretty solid advantage. 10 CS the lead, and is just very, very comfortable in this lane so far. Ezreal popped, Cassio also running down, but it's a 1v2 for now. Galio ulti thrown out, the Q lands, and it's going to be first blood picked up by Tufts. The Cassio gets it, which is going to help quite a bit in bringing their lane back, and that means that Tufts gets free reign over these grubs. There is no contest since the Xin Zhao is dead. There's no smite on the side of CU, so that's going to be one kill and all 3 grubs going over to Tufts in exchange for a plate bot lane. I mean, Tufts is going to be very, very happy with that. That's 2 ticks towards those feats of strength as the Amumu picks up the Void Grubs, and so they're just going to be waiting on 2 more kills and 2 more objectives and for those feats of strength. It does look like that CU are going to try and contest this bot side in exchange. The Xin Zhao is hovering towards that dragon, and Amumu is top side clearing their camps, so I don't imagine Tufts is going to be able to contest super hard, but it doesn't look like CU are actually going to start it. Xin Zhao backing off, coming back now, And they are going to start it, I think, once they know that Tufts' bot lane has recalled. And so Tufts is just going to trade this dragon for the Void Grubs. So yeah. So far, gold difference really is just the 1 kill being handed over to Tufts. Aside from that, pretty much every lane is relatively evil. As I say that, the Cassiopeia gets solo killed in the top lane. Gwen just pops the ultimate. The needlework does a ton of damage. Even since the Gwen has the extra kill gold picked up, as well as the CS advantage. So Gwen looking very, very strong in this game, and is probably going to be the hardest thing for Tufts to deal with, but with the amount of crowd control that Tufts has, once we get to the later stages of the game, I imagine they're going to be perfectly fine with that. Even with some money from the kill, Gwen not quite able to pick up their first item, but the Fiendish Codex and the Haunting Guys are definitely a good start for this Gwen. And actually, wow, the Ezreal just barely not managing to get the kill. Flashing forward for the auto does get it, and it's going to be a solo kill in the mid lane. I mean, I think just the Galio not having nearly the tankiness that they thought they might have, maybe. As the Amumu looks for a lane gank bot lane. Was spotted, it looks like, but no, actually goes in, gets the ultimate, flashes forward for the root from the Mel, and the Kai'Sa just has nowhere to go. The second Q does land from the Amumu, but it's not going to have that much of a difference now that the Karma's underneath the tower. 2 for 2 in terms of kills, and the gold is once again evened out. A really, really nice follow-up from the Mel, flashing forward to get the follow-up route, make sure that Kai'Sa isn't going anywhere. And now Tufts should have firm control over this bot lane, especially once MF can finish the Bloodthirster that it looks like they're going for first, which I think does make a lot of sense. But so far, no one quite at their first item just yet. Just bits and pieces for now, but I think almost everyone is starting to approach that that value. And I think so far, one of the biggest things that we can look at is just the CS differential, right? Ooh, a nice Q does end up dragging the Mumu a little bit farther than they maybe would have liked, but it's no harm, no foul, as Tufts once again sets up for these Void Grubs. This time, there is the ability for CU to contest. The Mel is in a very, very precarious spot. They should just be dead at this point. Yeah, they are just going to end up falling down. And that's going to be pretty much all 3 Grubs going over to CU with no ability for Tufts to contest. I mean, I think that was just a really, really greedy position for Mel to be in. Doesn't walk around the left with their jungler, so just ends up getting caught, pincered in, and yeah, it ends up going down. Galio, Justice punching forward, but it's just going to be for the trade, about half health traded back and forth. But I mean, on this backside, the Amumu Q does land, but it's not going to be nearly enough to secure the kill. A bit of trading going back and forth that in the end does seem to advantage Tufts ever so slightly. But no kills going over. Yeah, I mean, I think the real saving grace for Tufts here is this bot lane and the jungle position, because both of the solo lanes are just down so much in CS and now also down in kills. On the flip side, though, Tufts' jungle is ahead in CS, and once that Leandries is complete, is going to do so much damage. And this bot lane has just been snowballing ahead. Once that Bloodthirster is complete, is going to be able to heal up a lot of the poke that the Ezreal and the Karma and the Kai'Sa can dish out. So they're going to be in a very, very comfortable spot. A nice little bit of poke going onto this Ezreal, but with the Trinity Force complete is a little bit tankier than one might expect as the dragon spawns. So that does look like that's going to be the next point of contention. But the Xin Zhao does recall, so if Tufts wants to fight this is their window. But it doesn't look like they have the prio in the bot lane in order to really make a contest for this dragon. They are walking in together now, which I think is really good. Clearing out some of that vision, and maybe even just going for the start right now. Doesn't look like they are going to start, though. As the Xin Zhao does get the wind becomes lightning, goes in, goes onto this Amumu. Galio ulti comes in to save the Amumu a little bit. Ulti is popped, and the Xin Zhao just goes down. There's just no backup from the side of CU. Amumu flashing in for the bandage toss, does find it, and the follow-up auto coming through from the MF, and it's 2 kills over to the side of Tufts, with nothing being able to be traded back. I think just a really, really aggressive play, a little bit disjointed. Ezreal, Arcane shifting in forward, has to flash out, gets taunted, and I mean, the Mel just does so much damage with this Galio, and they're not quite able to finish out the kill. Meltek's tower shot drops very, very low. But Tufts ends up getting the dragon, gets 2 kills, nothing in response, because of a very, very aggressive play from the Xin Zhao. I think really well played from Tufts to secure those kills, and just a little bit disjointed from CU. Xin Zhao goes in with no backup from the team, and ends up dying. What that does is it does only even up the kill gold, though, or the team gold, however. It's Hextech Dragon to Mountain Dragon, 3 grubs apiece, so definitely things are looking very, very tense, but Tufts really keeping it very close, evening things out. I think one thing to keep an eye on, though, is this top lane. The Gwen is a lot of the money on the side of CU, and just hasn't been at most of these fights. This top lane has kind of just been isolated in this 1v1. And the other thing to keep an eye on is that tower, because the first tower is one of those markers for the feats, and with the 3 kills going over to CU first, they are ahead a little bit in those feats. So if that top lane tower does end up going down, that's going to be the upgraded boots going to the side of CU. So that's something that Tufts is going to have to look to defend. As Tufts takes a bit of a quick excursion into the jungle, but just to place a little bit of extra vision down. Bit of a lull state going on. Xin Zhao just posturing, putting down vision. I think so far has looked the weakest out of all of the CU members, as once again the needlework is popped. Petrifying Gaze does end up finding the stun, as the final needlework does not end up connecting. So the Cassiopeia does survive, but it looked pretty dubious there for a moment. Karma also dropped to about half health, just being poked down by the MF and Mel, and since this MF basically just doesn't take any poke damage, is struggling a little bit now. And I think that is going to be the theme of this Karma, pretty much for the rest of the game, is going to struggle a lot to find the impact that she would have otherwise had, I think, if she was able to get this Kai'Sa ahead early by applying that pressure. But, I mean, the MF has the Bloodthirster, is going to be feeling a lot more comfortable laning into the Karma, who is now forced to recall. Tufts are going to start up this Rift Herald. This would get them the last tick for the feat of strength if they do manage to secure it. Xinjiao does walk up, but I think Karma's not there, so they really can't fight this. Gwen is walking down, so it is looking a little bit dubious for Tufts, but we can see on the minimap Tufts' mid lane applying pressure to the Kai'Sa, and so the Xinjiao does end up having to retreat, and so that is going to be 1 feat of strength apiece for these teams. As this Galio dropped really, really low, the tower does go down. Justice punches in and just ends up dying again. Second death for this mid lane Galio against this Ezreal, who is slowly starting to become more and more of a problem. And with that tower going down, it's also going to be the feat of strength going over to CU. So once again, Needlework back again, but this time the Petrifying Gaze doesn't find its mark, forced to flash away from the third cast of the Needlework, and this Gwen and this Ezreal are just so terrifying on this side lane. And this is a really rough position for Tufts to be in because they only have the 1 dragon, so they can't really force CU into a fight because that's really what they want to do. They want to 5v5. They want to be in these large grouped up team fights. But with this Gwen and Ezreal, they just want to split push, and there's not really anyone on the side of Tufts that can answer that super easily. We've seen this Cassiopeia struggle into the Gwen all game, down 40 CS now. Same for the Galio, as once again, Galio now in trouble again, gets knocked up. The phase rush is giving them a lot of move speed, but they're not going in any direction. Ends up doing the heroic entrance out. Does survive, but that's going to be the Galio ulti pop, so it's not going to be available for a future fight. And it's just so hard for Galio, and who is, once again in trouble. Phase Rush once again giving them a ton of move speed. The Killer Instinct goes in, and I mean, all of the Tufts health bars are just so low. Mel goes down to a single Ezreal Q. Ezreal now 5-0, 2 items complete, the Trinity Force and the Muramana. And I mean, the CU solo laners are just so strong in comparison to where Tufts is. So, I mean, with the kills going over to the side of CU, once again, Amumu now in trouble again. Nowhere to run, really. Flashes in, gets the stun, but, I mean, with no teammates around, that's just going to be another kill going over. Ezreal picking up their 5th... Ezreal not the one to pick up that kill, but still, incredibly powerful. A very, very nice reflect does mean that they end up chunking themselves with that True Shot Barrage, but it's going to be all eyes on Ezreal in these upcoming fights. I think Tufts does have a lot of tools to get on this Ezreal, who is so strong with the Amumu ulti, but I mean, in the side lane, there's just nothing that Tufts can do. Galio procs a phase rush, has to run for the hills, as Voracious Otacon ends up going over to the side of CU. They are going to have those Guardian Angels for the next while, as the Kai'Sa runs into mid lane. Does end up getting rooted. A really nice pick. And with the Killer Instinct going in, it's not going to mean anything. Almost no damage going over. So that's just a free 200 gold for the side of Tufts, but they do have the Guardian Angel buff, so that is not going to be quite as impactful as it would have been otherwise. But mid lane inner taken as well. That is really, really important. I think mid lane outer, is the most valuable of these outer towers. So it is good that this MF is slowly starting to snowball further and further ahead. But it is going to take, it is quite an effort at this point to overcome how strong this Ezreal is. Second items now starting to come across for all of the members. Cassiopeia being able to grab those second items because she doesn't have to buy boots. But I mean, it is going to be eyes on the solo laners of CU to see if they can continue to snowball this lead. 4,000 gold the advantage for them, and it really is just about the side lanes, since I think even with this gold deficit, Tufts is still favored in these 5v5s if they can find them. Needlework going out once again. Petrifying Gaze does come through. They are going to try and dive this. They do have the Guardian Angels, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to find either kill. Yeah, the Cassiopeia is just so tanky and survives through the onslaught with no problems. Grabs another 400 gold for Tufts, and definitely not the best use of the Otacon that I've seen. And now this Karma's also in danger. Does not end up going down with a heal pop so that they can get away from that Amumu Q. They should not be in any danger. But I mean, well played from Tufts, surviving this Otacon so far. Ezreal popping the ulti again, but to no avail. The game is slowing down quite a bit. I think that last play was just a little bit of impatience from the side of CU. This Gwen looking to push her advantage does end up stopping the recall, but doesn't find anything else, as there is a bit of a lull state. Ooh, a nice bandage toss from Amumu does end up finding its mark, but it's going to be the Killer Instinct out of the Kaisa, so it's 2 ultis pop from the side of Tufts in exchange for the 1, so not quite worth it, but still a very, very nice bandage toss connection. And it's been Tufts bot lane and jungle just moving around as this 3-man squad that's been so effective for them so far, as the Baron is about to spawn, as is that dragon. We can see the Galio having a much, much better time into this Gwen than the Cassiopeia. As I say, that does take a bit of a chunk from the snip, but still looking very, very healthy with all of that magic resistance. Ezreal just poking around at the entrance to this dragon, not quite able to find anything, but is feeling okay. CU does look like they are starting up this dragon, moving off of it now as the... I didn't quite see what happened, but the Cassiopeia already dropped incredibly low as this Gwen just tears through the backline. But Tufts does end up going back for their backliners, and it's very, very much enough. Manages to pick up the kill on the Gwen at the cost of a lot of their health bars, but it is now a 4v5. The Galio does not have the TP or the Grand Entrance in order to, or Heroic Entrance rather, to get back into this fight, so Tufts are a bit outnumbered. Maybe the Amumu is looking for a steal, does get in, does end up stealing the dragon. That's really, really big. And now with that connection of the bandage toss with the Cassiopeia, sustained damage, and the Amumu is very, very tanky. Mel does end up going down, but it's looking good for Tufts so far. But it is actually traded back on the backside, so it's going to be this Ezreal versus the Cassiopeia, this 1v1, and it does look like the Cassiopeia is winning. And it's going to be an ace for the side of Tufts. 3 members surviving. Really, really well played from the Cassiopeia, dodging the skill shots. And, I mean, Kaisa tried to make the most heroic effort possible to save the play, but it's not nearly enough, as the Cassiopeia single-handedly carries that fight with the help of the crowd control and the front line from the Amumu. And now this Cassiopeia is really just back into it. 3 items now completed, the Rylai's Rod of Ages and the Seraphs. Incredibly, incredibly strong. And, I mean, that's exactly where the Cassiopeia wants to be. Able to do these skirmishes, stack up that Conqueror, and just do so much damage. Blast coning in. Bandage toss doesn't quite land, so they aren't going to be able to go any further. As the mantra, Q just doesn't do any damage, and we can see with this enchanter karma just isn't really having the impact that we want it to, that CU would want it to have. And so they are struggling quite a bit. I think this Kaisa and this karma are just not having the best time in this game. Not able to find the impact that they would like. I think in this game, now that the gold score has evened back out, it's looking really good for Tufts, honestly. The Cassiopeia is really strong, and yes, the Ezreal is scary, but with the amount of crowd control and frontline that the Tufts composition has, they're just in so much better spot to bring this one out through team fighting than I think the Ezreal is. Because Galio can clear these waves, no issue, with that Unending Despair, or Hollow Radiance rather, and so Tufts is just in a really good spot. Void Seeker does end up landing onto the 4-man squad of Tufts as they just clear out vision around this Baron. Cassiopeia does end up running face first into this Gwen. Needlework does end up pop. The last one doesn't hit very noticeable. Ooh, and a really beautiful max range bandage toss connects, allows the Cassiopeia to grab another kill. 5-1 and 2 now, 4 items complete. This Cassiopeia is a terror. And that's going to be the cue that Tufts needs to just start up the Baron. I mean, one of Sia's strongest members is down, and the Ezreal's on the bottom side. Yes, they have TP, but it's not going to be nearly enough with this member advantage that Tufts has. Xin Zhao is over the wall, maybe looking to fish for a steal, but isn't going to get it. And that's going to be Tufts picking up the Baron and the gold lead for the first time in what seems like a little bit. And actually, the Galio going in onto this Ezreal doesn't quite end up getting the kill that they would want to. Ezreal got very low, but it's not going to be enough. Galio ends up dropping, and Ezreal takes out the inner tower. A bit of an unfortunate trade on the side lane, but I mean, Tufts is going to be completely fine with that. I think Tufts in the driver's seat now for what feels like the first time all game. With the dragon spawning in 30, they are going to want to set up for this. Without the Galio, it is going to be a little bit more difficult, but the Galio does respawn in 10 with the TP and the heroic entrance, so is going to be able to join any fight that does happen. So definitely very comfortable with that. Galio now back, heading to the top lane to just answer the side lane split push of the Gwen, but Tufts should be able to grab this, get themselves onto Soul Point. If they can get an Infernal Soul, it'll be very good for them. But you can see how strong this Ezreal is. Just the WQ doing half of the Mel's health bar, and ooh, that's going to be painful. They're going to have to be very careful of this Ezreal, but I don't think there's anything that CU can do now. I think Gwen... I mean, the Xin Zhao is under the tower, gets taunted once again. The second time they've tried to do this in this game, and it's not worked out either time. Takes half their health bar, isn't able to get the inner tower on the top lane, and a bit questionable in terms of decision-making from the Xin Zhao so far. Trying to dive towers into this Galio who can just taunt them underneath. And it's not been working out. Tufts grabs the Infernal Drake at no cost. Putting them on Soul Point gives them definitely something very relevant to play for once they get to 5 minutes from now, as they siege onto this mid lane inner with the Baron, and that's not going to be any trouble at all for them, as with this Baron empowered wave, especially with that cannon, they're going to be in a very comfortable spot. Amumu takes a bit of a chunk, but it's not going to be nearly enough, as they just back off. True Shot Barrage does go out, chunks the Cassiopeia a little bit, but is not going to... Ooh, a really, really nice Wind Becomes Lightning onto the... I mean, ooh, just a very, very disjointed fight as the Galio is getting chased out now. Doesn't have the phase rush, isn't able to pop it, uses the hero's entrance defensively once again, does manage to survive, so it's just going to be the one kill going over to CU. But a really disjointed fight from Tufts, and a really nice flank from the Xinjiao, I think. Being able to find that Wind Becomes Lightning into the Audacious Charge over the wall, threatening that Mel, getting the summoners out, and just really giving CU the opportunity to go in. But this looks really, really dubious, as once again just trying to dive the towers, and it's not working. The third time this game, the Xinjiao has tried to dive the tower with no minion wave, and the third time it's not worked out for him. And that's going to mean it's going to be a 1-for-1, I think. Right as I praised the Xinjiao for a really nicely set up flank, they make a bit of a questionable decision as CU now tries to shove in this mid-inner. I don't think they're going to be able to get it. They don't have a wave coming in for a while, and all of Tufts' members are respawned, so even though the gold lead is slightly in favor of CU, I think Tufts is going to be relatively happy. Dragon spawning in 2.5 minutes, that's going to be the next thing that I think everyone is fighting for. And even if CU wants to trade that for the Baron that's spawning around the same time, Tufts will be happy to take that trade. So I think Tufts is in a comfortable position here, even though they're down in gold. I mean, the 6-1 and 2 Cassiopeia working on that Rabadon's death cap is just going to be so terrifying. I mean, with a Rod of Ages, ooh, a nice advantage toss does land. Second one lands as well, and that's just going to be the Karma going down. Very, very out of position, trying to get wards alone, and I mean, they're just not allowed to do that. Tufts does sweep out the control ward, finally goes back to clear it out. And I mean, just a big misposition from the Karma. But I think in this game, they're just struggling so hard to find some impact. True Shot Barrage goes out once again, sails right back, but is not going to connect. A nice attempt from the Mel, but is not going to end up making a difference. I mean, Tufts now coming back onto the map, I think should just try and push this mid-wave out and set up vision for this upcoming dragon. It does look like that's what they're going to do. Gathering is for... so far the Mel not been... has had some pretty solid reflex, but also been a bit happy, eager to press that W button. But Xinjiao now in a bit of a weird, awkward spot, is spotted on the wave, as Tufts looks to wrap around, flash, bandage toss. The Crescent card does end up coming out, but Tufts ends up just sitting inside of it, and that's going to be the Xinjiao going down. A really, really aggressive and really greedy play from the Xinjiao, trying to invade the jungle when Tufts has the mid-wave priority and could just wrap around. And now Tufts, with the numbers advantage, can walk through this river and just posture for the contest on this Dragon Soul, and it's going to be their soul point, and it's going to be their soul if they can find it. Mel once again dropped very, very low, but I mean, Tufts has this Galio that can just walk in and face tank, and the Cassiopeia is definitely not squishy either. Ezreal doing their best to poke out. The poke is landing. But the bandage toss also lands. The heroic entrance comes out, isn't going to find anybody, but does split up the comp a lot, and another bandage toss landing. But, I mean, just the follow-up not quite in range, not quite in time, as, but it is enough to find the, Karma. Cassiopeia dropped very, very low. The Ezreal just playing very, very safe on the edge of things. The Cassiopeia drop has to use the stopwatch, does end up going down to the Kai'Sa, and it's Kai'Sa and Ezreal against the world. Kai'Sa ends up going down, and it's 3 really, really low health bars from the side of Tufts against the Ezreal and the Xinjiao, who is now respawned from CU. and it does look like they are going to find it. The wind becomes lightning, flashing in. The W flash does end up finding the Amumu, and that's going to be the dragon going over to the side of CU, even though the fight looks so good for Tufts. And it's really just the poke from the Ezreal landing so well, and the Ezreal just always having that arcane shift, able to evade so much of the engage from Tufts, and doesn't end up taking really any threat during the entire fight. So really, really well played from the Ezreal. On the bright side, it's even in kills, and it's not CU's soul, so Tufts isn't going to feel super horrible about that, but they definitely would have loved to have it. And it does give them another 5 minutes before the next big objective. But there is always the Baron that is alive now, as Tufts starts to walk back out onto the map. Ooh, a really nice steal. Sinjao ends up getting the Scuttle Crab. That's not going to feel great for Tufts, but not a big deal, I think. But yeah, I mean, Tufts really just needs to find a way to deal with this Ezreal. And so far, I mean, the Bandit tosses have been landing, but the Ezreal just is able to Arcane Shift away after they hit, buffer that Arcane Shift. That just makes it so hard for Tufts to lock them down. That's really going to be what Tufts needs in order to win this game. They're walking over towards this dragon, this Baron, I mean, clearing out the vision, and they're just going to start it. I think this is completely fine, honestly. It forces the CU team to them. The Mel is forced out. It is going to be a bit of a trade, and it's the Galio that picks it up, actually. Sinjao does look like they're going to be the first to fall. Actually, no, it is the Mel. The heroic entrance does end up coming out, but I mean, the fight isn't looking super great for Tufts so far. But the MF going in, flashing, takes out the Paisa, but I mean, the Ezreal is just taking over the game, and it does look like it's going to be the Baron for the ace. Ezreal just left untouched the entire fight. It looked good for Tufts for a second, but it does end up going the way of CU, so they do get the money from the Baron, but it is going to be 4 members 2 versus the 5 going down from the side of Tufts, and Ezreal is going to finally be able to pick up this inner mid tower. Very, very back and forth so far, but I mean, Tufts I think can be in a really good position. I think in that fight, the Mel was just not quite there with the rest of the team, and so did struggle a little bit, ended up getting picked off first. And so I really would have liked to see the Mel stick with the rest of the team a little bit more, but aside from that, I think this game is super winnable for Tufts. 2 minutes until the next dragon, and that's going to be Soul no matter who ends up picking it up. So they are going to really look for that. Val stealing a couple of the camps from this Amumu. I think that's completely fine. I think the Smell does need the money. Ezreal now walking into the jungle, trying to see if they can get some kind of advantage, but I mean, Amumu just has the smite, is able to secure the red buff for the team. And I don't imagine too much more bloodshed is going to happen for the next minute and a half until this dragon spawns. I think that's going to be the most important thing to look at, because I think no matter who gets the Infernal Soul, it's going to be big, especially because of all of this poke that CU has. I think Ezreal with an Infernal Soul might just single-handedly win CU the game. Ooh, a nice reflect, but it doesn't do any damage.
Are you not intrigued?
Ezreal very, very fond of the emote button, but it has been a very, very back and forth game so far. Ooh, Tufts gathering in a bush. I mean, they have no vision of this. Ooh, really, really well played. And that's the Ezreal going down. That's exactly what they needed. I mean, nothing else matters. It's the Ezreal is dead, and that means Tufts can grab this Drake in 20 seconds, and that may even be the game. That's a huge pick, really, really nicely set up from Tufts. The stacking all of their members into this brush. I think at this point, there's really no way that Tufts can lose this fight with the way that they've been playing. Now that the Ezreal is off the table for another 35 seconds, and it doesn't even look like CU is going to contest it. Yeah, they're not. They're just going to give over the Soul. Soul is secured by Tufts, and I don't think CU can get anything in response. Really, really beautifully played from Tufts, setting up that Death Brush, and the Ezreal just didn't see it coming at all. Item completions now off of that coming in from Tufts. I mean, MF is now full build. Cassiopeia is approaching it. And I mean, things are looking very good for them. I think at this point, one more fight, if it ends up going in Tufts' favor, that's going to just be the game. And they've been looking really, really good. There isn't going to be a huge objective on the map for another minute when that Baron does spawn. So you think it is just going to be waves going over until that ends up happening? I think it is good that Mel is picking up some of these waves. Hopefully she'll be able to get a little bit of extra gold before the next fight. But yeah, I mean, it's just posturing at this point, trying to get vision on that top side around the Baron. Pushing out that wave. The Wind Becomes Lightning comes out, but it shouldn't really be anything. Tufts is able to walk in, clear out some of that vision, make sure that this Baron Pit is as dark as possible. On the downside, the Mel is already almost dead, dropped to about 40% health, so not looking great. Ooh, another Void Seeker hits. I mean, these have just been magnetized to the Mel, so definitely not what you like to be seeing. TP coming in, as the Galio just clears out this spot side. Baron is now up. We'll see if CU wants to start it up. It doesn't look like they will be. Ooh, Cassiopeia getting blast coned in the wrong way does end up dodging the Void Seeker, so there's not going to be a Kai'Sa follow-up. As it does look like CU are just going to start this Baron. Heal off of it when Tufts walks in. No resources taken out so far. As the Gwen does end up backing. Mumu looking very, very aggressively, but it should just end up being a sweep of the vision once again. It's actually just going to be mid-pressure. Ooh, a really, really nice, a very nice bandage toss, but the Arcane Shift does end up coming out early enough so that they do end up dodging the Curse of the Sad Mummy. That is going to be the Mumu ulti down, even though it was a really nice bandage toss that ended up connecting. So that's going to be a pretty important cooldown for Tufts. They probably want to wait a little bit to see if they can get that cooldown back. But, ooh, another bandage toss ends up landing, and it's going to be, once again, the Arcane Shift coming out, but nothing else. The Galio does end up investing the flash, so once again, these Arcane Shifts are providing so much value to the side of CU, and the Gwen is now able to push for free on the spot side. They're going to take an inhibitor. So Tufts needs to fight this now. Gwen gets an inhibitor, has the TP, looks for the kill going in. They get the Baron. The Galley ulti goes in. Ezreal's still untouched, and the Mel does end up going down already. Cassiopeia in a ton of danger. The Amumu goes in, and Gwen is just going to end the game. There's nothing that Tufts can do about this. Gwen ends the game before Tufts is able to respond, and that's going to be game 1 going over to CU. We will be back for the draft of game 2. Yeah. All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to game two of Tufts B versus CU as we head into the bans. Corky once again taken off the table makes sense. Definitely a strong pick right now. And Bessa banned out as well. We're seeing mostly the same bans as the last game. Gangplank as well. So far it is just the same things that we've seen from before. We'll see if they end up changing anything. Maybe Tufts feels like that Ezreal is a bit too strong from the previous game, or if CU wants to make any changes. But it does look like CU is sticking with their 3 bans. And Tufts is going to swap out the Lux for the Ezreal. So should CU want it, the Lux is on the table. But no, it is going to be the Mel first pick, which makes a lot of sense. Tufts grabbing the Hui. Hui would be very interesting here. Definitely an interesting pick. Can put out a lot of damage, and set up for with that. So a very versatile champion and can really put out a lot of damage. So makes a lot of sense. And it's going to be the MF once again. We will see if they end up going back to the Amumu. I think if that ends up going past the third pick, I do imagine the Amumu will get banned again now that CU knows that that's a combo that they like playing. But the MF did end up working out for them in the previous game, even though they didn't end up coming out top. But CU is going to, they are hovering the Caitlyn, which does imply that they are going to look for that Caitlyn Lux, which is another very powerful bot lane. Something that can get very far ahead in this early game. Last time with the Kaisa Karma, it didn't really work out for them. We'll see if that can be different with what I imagine is going to be the Caitlyn Lux. Unless they also want to lock in their jungler now, which is also possible. It is going to be their jungler. It is going to be Wukong this time instead of Xin Zhao. Cassiopeia locked in. That's probably going to be the same. I do imagine the Amumu gets banned here, as does the Lux. It's going to be the Leona actually banned first. We'll see if CU wants to take away that Amumu. I think the Wukong does make a lot more sense in the Xin Zhao. Just provides a little bit of that front line and provides a little bit of that engage. The Amumu is going to be taken off the table. I think that makes a lot of sense. Tufts, are they going to end up banning the Lux? I do imagine they will, but no, it's going to be the Braum instead. I think that makes sense as well. Braum does do very well into this MF. Can just put up the shield, block the entire ultimate, so I think that makes sense. And it's going to be the Nautilus taken off the table as well. I would imagine Tufts wants to lock in their support here to see if they can get mid lane counter pick, or sorry, jungle counter pick. But we'll see what they end up picking. It is going to be the Viego. I think that is probably okay, but they are once again lacking a little bit of that engage. I think if they can find a good engage support, Nautilus is no longer on the table. I do really like the Rel. I think if they can get the Rel here, I think it looks very good for them. Once again, it combos really well with the Misfortune and gives them some of that hard engage where they're able to just jump right in. Vel'Koz is going to be locked in. I imagine support, but it could also be mid lane. I'm not entirely sure. CU playing a very long range comp, which I think makes it even more mandatory for Tufts to find that engage, something that they can just really go in with. And the final CU pick is going to be Garen, which was banned last time, is no longer banned. Um, Honestly, it sounds pretty solid into the Cassiopeia. It doesn't really suffer from the miasma nearly as much as a lot of other champions. So we'll see how the Garen fares. And it is actually going to be Pantheon locked in for Tufts' support. Will provide a little bit more of that early game aggression. But once again, is going to struggle a little bit more to set up this misfortune for these big ultimates for being able to find these engages in the late game. We will see how the comps end up shaping out as when we head into game in a couple of minutes. Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to Game 2 of Tufts vs. CU as we head out onto Summoner's Rift. A couple of things to take notice of. We do see the Garen taking Ghost in the top lane, so that does mean they aren't going to have the teleport, which is going to be pretty impactful once we get later on in the game. Aside from that, everything looks relatively normal, relatively standard. It is going to be the Conqueror Pantheon and not the Press the Attack as we do see quite a bit. But aside from that, it is a little bit of level 1 skirmishing. The Pantheon does end up losing most of their health bar, but they should just be able to recall and back playing with no issues. I say that as their recall does get interrupted, but should still be able to make it back to lane in time. The ward does get spotted out. Wow, the Pantheon's still getting interrupted. That's really brutal, actually. It does mean that they are going to miss some of that XP in the first wave, and it's going to mean that Tufts is going to be a bit on the back foot in the bot lane in this opening fight. Yeah, I mean, without a support, the MF just gets zoned off of the wave so easily. Should still be able to pick up some XP for this, which is going to be pretty impactful, but definitely not what you want to be seeing. Pantheon has returned, so should be able to... Ooh, a very unfortunate Vel'Koz Q split. But yeah, I mean, the Vel'Koz is just going to be so good at poking out the bot lane of Tufts, and I mean, it's 2 CS to 12 so far. Definitely not what you want to be seeing this early into the game, but also kind of the expectation of what this Caitlyn Vel'Koz is going to do. Try and apply that pressure, put down that poke damage, that in theory will get weaker as the game goes on, but yeah, the Vel'Koz is really, really brutal. Mel taking a tower shot as she tries to go under the tower a little bit to apply a little bit more damage onto the Hui. Is going to be pretty unfortunate, but so far lanes are going quite firmly in favor of CU. I think the thing is with this Pantheon as well, both supports do kind of end up wanting to make something happen in the early game. So if it ends up being an uneventful, well, as I say that, the Hui is getting a bit of a ganked in the mid lane, but just ends up falling down to the getting tagged by the edge of the root, and so the Wukong is able to rush in and finish the kill off. Flash also burned, so that's going to be a pretty unfortunate kill in the mid lane. It means the Hui is going to be set even further behind, and just a really brutal early game for Tufts so far. Not what you want to be seeing off the bat. We do see the CS lead starting to narrow a little bit, which definitely helps, but even then, this bot lane matchup is just so difficult to deal with as the Pantheon MF, just because there's so much poke and there's just not a lot that MF can do about it. This Hui now also forced to stand back from the wave a little bit. Wow, a really nice reflect from the Mel means that Hui takes a good chunk of damage. Is not going to be enough, and Hui actually trading back very, very well. Getting that Fire Blast to punk out the Mel in response, so he's trading back and forth. But once again, the bot lane just getting poked out, and it's so difficult for them to play. Especially with this Pantheon that wants to all in, but when their health bars are this low, ooh, and especially with stepping into the trap, it's just so hard for the Tufts bot lane to do anything into this, Caitlyn Vel'Koz. And honestly, at this point, just a single Caitlyn headshot or a Piltover Peacemaker could just end the Pantheon. So you have to be very, very careful. Wow, that almost barely killed, almost killed the Pantheon. And I mean, the MF just has no HP. The really beautifully played, but the Pantheon does end up going down at the very last moment. Viego ends up killing the Caitlyn, and that is going to be very impactful. Getting this Viego further ahead is going to matter. But Caitlyn does end up picking a kill on the flip side, which is definitely not what you want to see. In exchange, CU are going to pick up these first scrubs, so that is going to be one of the objectives going over to CU. It does look like Viego is going to try and contest and trade for the dragon on the other side, and I don't imagine CU are going to try and contest that. So it will be a 1-for-1 objective trade. Vel'Koz walking up. I don't think they can do anything, especially since Wukong's not in the area, but Wukong is taking Viego's top side in exchange for this dragon, so CU is just still getting something in exchange for this dragon, so overall favoring CU, but at this point Tufts just really just needs to survive. That's their goal, as Caitlyn ends up grabbing the first. Ooh, a really nice engage. Pantheon should still have the shield bash, and actually ends up just grabbing the kill. Really, really beautifully played. The bullet time comes out just for a little bit of extra chip damage onto the Vel'Koz, and that means that the MF and Pantheon finally get to step forward in this matchup. Really well played, getting the stun off, and blocking a ton of damage in response with the Aegis Assault. So that's going to make a big difference. Wukong in the top lane is able to secure the kill for the Garen, so Garen's getting a kill is going to be pretty important. The Viego forced to ulti out. Caitlyn does have the ultimate, but doesn't end up having the vision. Walks onto a ward, but Viego's no longer in range, and picks up the honey fruit, so he will end up surviving. Really, really well done from the Viego. A nice escape from Viego, but is forced to burn the flash and the ultimate. But Mel now also looking for Viego in their own jungle, isn't going to find them. Vel'Koz ends up finding them finally, and Viego is forced to retreat. Mel flashing forward, and it's just going to be enough to get the kill. But now Mel in an awkward spot in the 1v1 against the MF, but should be able to walk out with no issues. Really well played, does end up burning the flash, but secures the kill and the feat of strength for CU. And now Hui forced to flash away. Things just going back from bad to worse for Tufts. It's really not what you would want to see. I think in contrast to the first game, Tufts is kind of just down across the board, with the one exception maybe being this top lane where things are still relatively even. But I think in the first game, Tufts had those saving graces of the jungle being ahead and the bot lane being ahead, but they really don't have that now. Pantheon jumping on the Caitlyn, but isn't able to do much of anything. I think just grabbing the most mortal will stacks as... Ooh, the Vel'Koz E does land. The MF left on just a sliver of health, flashing forward. Q doesn't connect, neither does the W. Viego also going in, does end up grabbing the kill onto the Caitlyn, gets the body, and it's going to be a 1-for-0 in favor of Tufts, and with the MF escaping on just a sliver of health.
Wukong is now here. It is going to be a 2v2. I don't think Wukong can do anything here. Yeah, it's just going to back off, so reveals himself for nothing, really, as Tufts picks up a 1-for-0. Really, really well played. Wait, fearing themselves, and with the Mel ulti, that's just going to be a solo kill. It's so hard to go into this Mel with the W up because so much of what Quake can do is going to be projectiles. Especially that EQ, the fear, is just so difficult to ever use when the Mel has their W up. Pantheon now forced to flash away, does have the empowered Aegis Assault, should be able to survive no issues. But we'll have to use it. Yep, there we go. Cyclone does still end up getting used. Wukong now stuck in the base a little bit. I don't know if this is where he wants to be. Doesn't have the W, finally has it now. And, ooh, in the bot lane actually, Caitlyn getting a solo kill against the MF. And Tufts not able to find the kill onto the Wukong in their base either. And it's just a nightmare for Tufts. None of their plays end up working out. Pantheon on a sliver of health. Cassiopeia now in the midst of 4. This is not where she wants to be. Just instantly gets Garen ulted. Swirling Despair also ends up going wide. The Devastating Bolt does land, ends up picking up the kill with the Aerie. So that is a bit of a consolation prize, but not what you want to be seeing from the side of Tufts in this early game. Very, very, very one-sided. MF and Caitlyn now trading once again. Pantheon does go out, but the Caitlyn is just doing so much damage. Flashes over the W, and it is going to be the 1-for-1 trade. Yeah, I mean, just flashes straight over the Viego W, avoids the stun, and there's nothing that MF can do about that. It's just the auto attack dealing so much damage. And at this point, it's 3,000 gold in favor of CU, and that's just so hard for them to deal with. Wukong once again taking Viego's jungle, and it's 8-5 in the kill score, but it's looked so one-sided for CU. Bloodthirst are now complete. Yeah, first item starting to come out. Petrifying Gaze used, Flash forced out from the Cassiopeia as well. And now, once again, the flank on the Vel'Koz means that the MF is just dead once again. Mel visiting from mid lane, but it's just to provide some moral support. And Tufts kind of falling apart. Pantheon trying to hold the wave with that Aegis Assault isn't quite able to do it, and waiting a little bit against that Caitlyn, but now that ulti comes out, not quite enough damage to survive. Does end up finding it. It's just another solo kill for the Caitlyn. And grabs the first tower, giving CU the feats. So incredibly one-sided, especially in the spot lane. Caitlyn now with 5 kills. Second item starting to be built, and I think if Tufts wants to win this, it's really just going to be off the back of this Viego. But even then, the Viego is not particularly far ahead of the Wukong, so it's going to be a struggle no matter what. Pantheon in a bit of an awkward spot, does end up firing the, A really nice bullet time though, ends up picking up the kill in response, and now the Wukong forces out the Wukong Soul forces out the flash out of the Vel'Koz. It's going to be a 1-for-1 in terms of kills, and at this point, even trades is exactly what Tufts wants. But with the health bars dropped so low, they aren't going to be able to defend this mid-inner tower, so it is just going to go down, and now with the gold lead reaching 5,000 gold, they're really struggling to keep their footing in this game. Cassiopeia now in trouble. Vel'Koz lands the Q, lands the E, and Cassiopeia just straight up dies. There's nothing she can do about that. That is going to be the top outer tower going down as well. And it's just these picks are happening left and right. Especially with that Vel'Koz E. I mean, Tufts tries to defend, but it's a 3v2. There's nothing they can do here. So the tower goes down, and it's nothing valuable is gotten for Tufts on the other side of the map either. Yeah, grabbing the Herald uncontested. There's nothing that Tufts really can't contest it at all. They don't have vision. They would be walking into darkness, and that's a surefire way for 1 or 2 more members to die. The Tufts is really just in dire straits here. Going to take a miracle for them to come back from this one. They need to one-shot that Caitlyn, but also the Mel does an insane amount of damage as well, and so does the Vel'Koz. So they have no shortage of targets for them to hit, and it's just so hard for them to get every single one of them. TP now coming through, a Cyclone goes out onto the Viego, is forced to ultimate out. The Lifelorn Disintegration Ray does hit, and it's going to be the Mel ulti pop, not even needed, to take down the Viego. And so that's just another kill going over to CU, forces out the flash, forces out the ultimate, and I mean, Pantheon now in a bit of trouble, does have the Aegis Assault, luckily, to save them, but the Rift Herald actually comes in, and it might be, the knockup might be enough to kill the Pantheon, and it is! The MF does manage to clear it with a clear the way with the bullet time, and actually the devastating bolt from the Hui coming out, finishing off the low health member. The fear coming out from the Hui also dissuading a little bit more engagement from this Garen. The Spiraling Despair comes out, goes completely wide, isn't going to hit anything. Viego has respawned, but not nearly in time to contest anything or to make any kind of play. Cassiopeia is here, and the stun from the Viego does hit. Petrifying Gaze doesn't, and Viego is in a bit of danger, does survive. Cassiopeia now in the midst of things. The Garen ulti comes out, just takes out the Seraph's Embrace Shield, but the Cassiopeia ends up going down anyways to this Wukong, who is now also incredibly strong. Wukong now chasing for more, looking for this Viego, isn't going to find them. Garen now also on the chase. It's not going to work out, just takes a fireball to the face and goes down. So a favorable trade, kind of, for Tufts, but the gold gap is still so extraordinarily big, so you can just hit them with their wallets. I think if the gold lead were any smaller, that would have been an incredible fight for Tufts, but it just isn't, and Tufts doesn't have the tools to stave off this engage. Viego now looking for the Mel, does end up finding them, but the root ends up coming through, so it's not going. They aren't going to be able to keep looking for more. The stun does not end up landing, but that's so much damage onto the Viego as the Vel'Koz E lands, and It's a 3v1, and Mel wins it. And now with the Lifeform Disintegration Ray coming out, the Pantheon also ends up dying. In a numbers advantaged fight for Tufts, they just aren't able to pick up those kills. I think also with just an excellent use of that, excellent use of the Mel E, means that they just aren't able to advance any further, and CU are going to take this as a opportunity to start this voracious Otacon. I mean, they're going to have these GAs, but it doesn't even seem like they're going to need them with the way that they've been playing, because, I mean, every fight has just ended up so advantageous for CU. The Garen is pushed away from the enemy Krugs, but it's looking so dire for Tufts. Every lane is down. It's gold disadvantages across the board. And I mean, I didn't even notice this before, but it's Heartsteel Pantheon. That Pantheon is not doing damage. It's going to be a little bit tankier against some of the things that these enemy laners are throwing out, but the Pantheon's going to be so squishy with just the one item with 44 Heartsteel stacks. It's a bit of a disaster for Tufts. Garen now with a Phantom Dancer picked up as well. This is the Phase Rush Mobility Boots Stridebreaker full movement speed Garen. That's going to do so much damage. And I mean, like, he doesn't need to be tanky. No one on Tufts' team does any damage. $10,000 now the gold lead. As Tufts is desperately trying to cling on to the last remnants of their base. And there's no pressure for CU to do anything. They can just hang out, press their advantages, and auto-attack towers, right? They are going to start sieging onto this top tower, and there's nothing that Tufts can do to stop them. The wave finally goes down. The Cassiopeia steps on a trap and just takes their entire health bar and damage. When the next wave crashes, this tower is gone. I think now that CU is just so far ahead, they're struggling to get, like, every fight is a winning one. They're diving the inhibitor towers now, and it looks like it's going to be an ace. Like, the Caitlyn ends up withdrawing, but it's just a Viego left against the last three members, and they do end up going down to the Wukong. That's going to be an ace, and that might even just be the game. Wukong now trapped a little bit in this, in the enemy base, but once that W comes back off of cooldown, there it is, they can just hop right out. And that should have been a very disadvantageous fight for CU, but it doesn't matter. They have Otacon buffs, they have the respawns, and they're 10,000 gold, now 13,000 gold in the lead. Garen is still here, but I mean, what's MF gonna do to him? He just runs away. He's the fastest swordsman in the West. Pantheon now also in a bit of trouble, jumps in, procs the Bloodsong, but takes half of their health in response, and Mel's really none the worse for wear. And these Qs just do so much. As we have a bit of technical difficulties, but the Viego ends up going down. It's a good engage onto the Caitlyn, but it doesn't end up mattering. Like, they get onto her, but she can just walk away. They don't do enough damage to burst her down. And Caitlyn just three-shots them, right? 3 items now on this Caitlyn compared to, you know, 1 or 2 on the side of Tufts just isn't enough to do anything. This Cassiopeia is strong, but not against 5 members of the enemy team. Has to flash away from the Garen, gets rooted up. The bullet time goes out, doesn't do nearly enough damage, and the Cassiopeia dies. everyone from the side of Tufts is respawning, but it's going to be with an empty Nexus that's dying immediately, and that's going to be Tufts going down 2-0 and losing the series to CU in a very, very dominant game too.